Hi everyone. That first tutorial walked you through just setting up a couple links, uploading a file, and let's move into actually editing one of these modules. Your course comes built with quite a few available. I think there's at least 15. You could add more if you wanted to. But let's just, for kicks, start off by looking at basics. So you go to this settings icon, the little gear, and that lets you edit what's here. I've kept the default section names, but you could change that if you'd like to. I think it's sort of easy to keep it topic 1, topic 2. People know where they are. But go ahead and give this some kind of a big statement or a theme. Let's call this theme for this module. Because I know Cynthia is working at Fogler Library, research at Fogler, and we'll give it a font size nice and big, make it bold, italic, make it stand out. And then we want to go ahead and change this so that what we're pasting in or writing is not quite so huge. You really don't want to hit people with these gigantic fonts in their basic instructions. It's kind of like shouting at people. So I'll turn off bold and italic here. And if I've pre-written this, I'd paste it in, or I would just write it. But just a quick overview. This module is about research and the ins and outs of working at Fogler. I may be saying it wrong. Library at UMaine. And I would do a little more with this. You see what I do, and that might be helpful. I try to provide some space here. Okay. And I also try to keep this a little interesting. If you know from the course, I try to use some photos periodically or videos, but something to give this a little bit of appeal. Otherwise, it could really be deadly. It could just be very boring. So I'm going to start off, actually, I'll start off with a photo and just use this photo icon, find an image, and it's probably worth spending a little time to track some down. We'll do this in a separate tutorial, but I happen to have something, I believe, in here we go. Here's a little photo which has nothing to do with this. Give it a quick name just so you know what it is. And go ahead and upload it. So what this is doing is this is putting this image, taking it from my computer or a copy, and putting it on the Moodle server so that I now have access to it to build my course. Moodle, at least at UMaine, is pretty quick. We really don't wait very much for things. If you're uploading a giant photo, it might take a little while. But I think it's going pretty quickly. So hopefully in a second that'll be here. While that is getting there, let's see what we're going to be doing. What we're doing is we're building this central area here, and this will be module 1. So here we go. Excellent. It made it. The photo is pretty big. I want to give some kind of a description of the photo, a couple words, and that is so that if I have a student who is visually impaired, they can hover their cursor over this, and their screen reader will be able to see this description. Okay, so they will know what the photo is of, and I would spend a little more time on this. Now I can tell you already this photo is going to be way too big. Let's pick these other tabs here. 2560 by 1920 is bigger than my screen. So this whole photo, this whole photo is going to be huge. I tend to work at about 600. Most of the photos you see in this course are 600 pixels, and if you click that box, it'll make it nice and constrained, which means if it's square, it'll stay square. It won't squish things. These just allow you to pre-plan a little bit of extra space. I usually work with about 6 or 8, and I think these are pixels. Not pixels, points perhaps, but anyway, 8 is what I've been using. The border, I don't use borders. If you put a border here, it's going to make a box, and I try to avoid that. So I leave that blank, ignore style, and let's go ahead and insert, and we'll see how this works. And that's not bad. It's, you know, slightly large, but that's okay. I could scroll down, and I could adjust this from one of the corners, and you'll see it's changing my measurements. So let's go ahead, we'll adjust it down a little bit. I do try to stay conscious of bandwidth, and I realize I might have some students who have very slow bandwidth. If I put up giant photos, it's just going to make those crazy. Now, I kept this writing pretty short, and it came close to being underneath here, but I could use a table. Go ahead and show you tables really quickly. And a table will make it one column and one row, and that's about it. I'm going to let it go about the full screen, but let's let it go about 75% of the screen, okay? Actually, we're going to leave that blank. Whoops, I'm sorry. I guess I do need to do that. So we're going to make the width about 75. Now, some of these, it's percent, sometimes it's by actual size. We'll keep it at 75 and see what happens. Well, maybe it needs to be that. It is. We're going to go ahead and cancel that right now, and I'll deal with that later. So I wanted to show you the basics. We're on the basics. Let's go ahead and save this change. And you'll now see topic 1 has a photo, it has a header, a brief description, and I can now begin building things. So I wanted to add a URL, and I showed you how to do that in the first module. And I would like to also add a file or a page. A page is what you're seeing in my course when you see the Start Here things. So I will go ahead and add a page. A page is really a web page, and this is just a simple way of doing it. It needs a name. Let's call it Start Here. A brief description. Oops, the intro. And the content of what I want to say. So here's where I can write the checklist. And you'll see I have all these buttons up here. I can make a numbered checklist. I can give many directions. I could add a photo if I'd like to. I can spell check. I can do just about everything here. Okay. I can use bold. I can italicize. But, you know, like we talked about in the beginning, you want to be kind of careful with what you're doing here. I want to display this page name, which is up here, and I'd like to make it visible. If I hide it, you won't be able to see it. I can change that later, but I tend to do it this way. And then I go ahead and save this, and we'll see what this looks like. So now we see the first topic, a little intro, a little description, and the first thing, which is the Start Here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this tutorial right here, and we'll pick it up with a few more things.